Hey class, it's Ashley with School and Life's Mentor Me, and I'm back for another mentoring moment. And the salient message I want you to walk away from today's conversation is, it's not Black women's job to fix racism at work. Too often, Black women are at the helm and responsible for racism, racist incidents, there to pick up the pieces, there to rebuild our communities. And I pray that this stops today. In this week's video, I'm going to talk a bit about the often perpetuated cycle of racism in the workplace, what it looks like, what it feels like for me as a Black woman in the workplace, what I know it feels like for so many of my mentees, and give some instruction and some caution to Black women who have experienced racism at work or that obviously experience racism in their lives every day, and maybe what not to do and some better actions to take as they have these experiences. So for me, racism at work has been all too common. Obviously, white supremacy reigns everywhere, and it can be deafening. It is so loud, it is so impactful, and these micro and macro aggressions are just often overwhelming. And so what this ends up looking like is that a racist incident happens at work. Maybe it's a racial slur on the elevator, or maybe a colleague says something that's overtly racist or inadvertently racist, or maybe someone comments on your hair or how you look or your body, or there's racism happening in the world and your colleagues ignore it, or come to you and ask you what you're doing to fix it, or shame you and your people for how they're responding and behaving to racist incidents in the world. And I know for me, I often am like, wait, did that happen? Or maybe I don't even recognize it until I get home or I get in the car and I'm like, wow, that was racist. Oh my goodness, what just happened? How did that just happen? I can't believe that I had that experience. And I often question wait, what did they say? Or is this what they said? Or is this what they meant? I'm often questioning even the validity of my own experience, right? The validity of my own thoughts, because racism is so pervasive, right? White supremacy is so pervasive that sometimes when you experience it, you question if you even experience it, right? You question if it's real. You question if, did that just happen to me? And then from there, I often find myself validating with another Black, brown, or allied person, hey, I had this experience. Is this racist? Or hey, did you see that? Did you hear that? Did you experience that? Because unfortunately, even despite 400 years, post 400 years of the experiences of Black people in this country, for me, sometimes racism is still shocking. Not because I don't believe that people have the capacity to do it, but I think it's the audacity to which people, I experience racist incidents. It's you bold today. Oh, okay. I guess we just out our pockets today. We really gonna act up. I think that racism still shocks me, and it's disappointing that it does because it happens so often in the workplace. But it still shocks me, and my validation with other folks who might have experienced racism or just sharing my experience is often what I do. And then often I get angry because I'm like, dang it, I did not respond in the moment how I would have wanted to, or I didn't correct in the moment, or I didn't, really address that in the moment. Maybe I kind of let it fall off my back, or maybe I showed on my face that I was disgruntled, but I really didn't express in any meaningful way, what it meant to have that experience. Or maybe I got emotional and I cried, or maybe I walked away, or maybe I did confront it, but I regret the way I did it or how I engaged. When you experience a racist incident, particularly as a Black woman, there's so much guilt because we feel responsible for fixing racism. And that is where the is. I am really encouraging Black women to know and understand that racism is not ours to own. It is not our burden to bear. We did not create racism. We do not benefit from racism. We do not profit from racism. And it's not our job to fix racism. Yes, we can be soldiers in the fight towards racial equality and racial justice, but it is not ours alone. And that is something that I am so passionate about. And a message I want every Black woman in particular to know. It is not yours to own. It is not ours to resolve. Yes, we can be a part of the fight. Yes, we absolutely should be a part of the fight. And for me, my mentorship of you, my mentorship of high achieving Black and Black women in particular is the work. Me helping you identify what you're good at, identify what you're passionate about, identify what your strengths are and how to leverage those in organizations that you care about, with work that you care about to advance your life and your career is my work. That is the work that I am passionate about. And the fight continues, right? Like, I'm not new to this. I'm true to this. The fight continues. And every time I have the opportunity to mentor a new, a mid-level professional woman and help her, equip her with the tools and strategies to leverage her career skills, to really position herself as the expert that she is, that is a fight towards racial equality. And that is a punch in the face to white supremacy, because Black women will know their value and they will charge their value, and their value will be seen in the workplace, and racism will not persist. It will not, and it will not be Black women slaving to figure out how organizations can fix their racist issues, when that is the job of white folk who are in leadership, because racism does not belong to Black women. It is not ours to fix. And I think so often when you experience those racist incidents, then you'll report it, right? Like, you'll go to HR, you'll go to a manager, and they will listen. Often, we maybe work at organizations that do have values that align with ours. They'll listen. They'll express empathy. They'll express their own concern. But too often they'll ask for evidence. About, how do you know that this happened, or what can you do to prove this? And so often the experiences of racism require this high level or high threshold of evidence, or, proving it, that just is not valid. And we know that we experience racism, and this requirement to prove our experience, and to, video and sort of publicly share our shame, or the shame is not ours, but the shame we might feel, or the shame that we initially experienced when we experience that, can just be so disheartening. And so then you're angry and disillusioned all over, because maybe you talked to someone about your experience and they didn't believe you, or they believed you, but they just, pat you on the back and passed you a tissue, but didn't really do the real work of saying, like, hey, like, I know that this happened to you, and here's what I am going to do about it. And here's what I'll be holding our organization to do about it as well. Because it's not just enough for you to share your experience, but it's the responsibility of our organizations to divest from attitudes, people, other partner organizations, or any ideals that would not align with the value that Black folk, Black women in particular, add to these organizations. We are adding so much value. We are contributing at a high level, and it is not our responsibility to fix racism. And too often, Black women in particular will find themselves with these experiences, and then they're like, okay, let me start a diversity committee. Let me be a part of, the movement at work. Let me serve on search committees to try to bring in more people who look like me. Let me mentor new professionals as they come into the industry. And that work is so important. That work is so critical. But I see so many Black women who are so burnt out in this fight and they are exhausted. They're not even hitting the milestones in their own career. They're not even doing their work well, because not only were they were hired to do this one specific job, and because of the experiences they have, they're also fighting, on the front lines of racial inequality at work. And so that exhaustion that comes with that, and the exhaustion that comes with doing that work when the work is not ours to begin with, is just something I want to caution Black women toward. Like, I want you to be really thoughtful about what it means to serve on all these search committees and serve on all of these committees and put on all these programs when you're often talking in an echo chamber. How can we ensure that, our allies are doing that work, or that we can make sure that work is connected to institutional change? So not just pacifying, right, the experiences that we have, or not the experiences, but pacifying the racism that we experience in the workplace, but really going after systematic change. And what does systematic change look like? It means having having these processes engaged in HR processes, having them start on hiring and training and recruitment and engagement and outreach, like with our clients, with our customers, with our students, whoever the stakeholder is in your organization. It's so important that when if you are a Black woman who is interested in addressing racism in the workplace, that you aren't just doing it yourself, but that you're involving high level stakeholders so that you can move forward to systematic change. And so I just want to encourage you. I want to support you. And I want you to know that I and the Mentor Me platform are here for you. Racism at work is just maddening. And it's so hard to not only do the work, the meaningful work that you know you're responsible for, but also to try to fix racism. I want you to release yourself from the responsibility that it's your job. And I want you to do what you need to do your job well, to show your value and to take care of yourself. If I can support you in any way, let me know. Reach out to me at ashley@mentor-me.org. That's my direct email. It's ashley@mentor-me.org. You can also schedule your 20-minute mentor moment. If you're ready to work with an expert to support your career development, I look forward to serving you. You can schedule that at mentor-me.org. Again, that's mentor-me.org. And let me know what you think about this video. Let me know what your concerns are related to Black women in the workplace and racism. Let me know, who you think should be on the front lines of the fight against racial inequality in the workplace. And let me know how you yourself as a Black woman are experiencing racism in the workplace. And let's work together to end this with our allies really committed to the work as well. Thanks for listening. See you next week. Bye.